Hello, this is Mel Thompson, and this is a podcast and a series of podcasts about political risk. Today I'll be talking about labor reform in the autonomous region in the country of Bosnia, known as the Bosniak Croat Federation. Labor unions and laws that protect workers are a vital and moral necessity of life. When you have people, companies, and governments trying to suppress the rights of workers to organize, be paid fairly, or even have decent working conditions, nothing good can come of these practices. Plus, I find them absolutely abhorrent. Now, currently in Bosnia, the autonomous region known as the Bosniak Croat Federation is going through a crisis in the sense that many people are upset about changes in labor law that aren't quite as draconian as one would think based upon the protests being instituted right now by workers. The lawmakers in that country have been told in no uncertain terms by the EU and the IMF they have to basically change certain types of labor laws in order to qualify for funding. Without the money, that then they're not going to be able to survive. And if they don't survive as a government, then I can't see how there's going to be an economy where the workers could even count on a paycheck from. Like in many other nations that have had a much different view of labor practices than the U.S., this particular region is experiencing a pushback from the workers because it is a different system, a much different system than we are used to here in the States. As one of two autonomous regions that make up Bosnia under the peace deal that ended the 1992-95 war in what was then the former Yugoslav Republic, the Bosniak Croat Federation is in the midst of very, very high unemployment. Compare that to a depression, where even then you had some degree of control over the draconian measures trying to be instituted by some employers. And you can see that there is a difference between trying to make sure that there are safe conditions, decent hours, and no impact upon labor organizing. Yet there needs to be changes made to the types of perks, possibly salaries, possibly other things that are putting a strain on a autonomous region, not even a country for goodness sake. It is an autonomous region that can't survive. And if they want to get the financial help needed to keep these workers employed, they're going to have to change certain labor laws. And they're going to be changing them in a way that is not unacceptable to those of us who live in the United States. In fact, if we had the kinds of things that were in the labor agreements that in this particular autonomous region as workers in the United States, we would probably be more than happy, overjoyed. There's much more there as far as perks than what we would even possibly contemplate here. The problem is that not that those things are bad; those things are excellent. But the problem is this country just can't afford that. As a matter of fact, we probably could afford it a lot easier and a lot better than a autonomous region of a country that is pretty much under the auspices financially of the EU and the IMF. No one is controlling the U.S., but this particular country and this autonomous region is absolutely being controlled financially by the IMF and the EU. And what they say must go because without them, there's not going to be any money, an economy, or a country, or even an autonomous region to speak of. Now, although these changes are not designed to institute draconian measures or suppress labor rights, which, from what I understand, they are not. If they were, then this would be a different podcast. But what I can understand right now, they're not designed to suppress the rights of laborers to organize or do anything that any labor union or worker in this country has the right to do. But nonetheless, if you look at the changes that they're trying to institute, they have nothing to do with the overall protections of the workers. They have something to do with the economics of the perks given, the how everything is set up as far as protections, as far as job security. And I can understand why they're upset, rightfully so, because they're going to be in a much more precarious situation given the high unemployment in this region. The Bosnian government has not done enough. The federation and its politicians have not done enough, and now you're in this position where the workers are essentially thrown under the bus because they can't control fixing a problem that should never have been a problem in the first place because the type of overall labor rights that they have are so much fundamentally above anything that an American worker would have that it's unbelievable. And that is and it's unaffordable by a country the size of Bosnia, and it is certainly unaffordable by a autonomous region such as the Bosnian Croat Federation. Now, unlike in the U.S., these types of changes were these types of changes in law um, would certainly get pushed back, and rightfully so. If they were something we were used to, or they had been in place from the start, they wouldn't even be contemplated by a labor union to ask for. In the U.S., these types of guaranteed employment deals never exist. No employment is guaranteed. The social and labor safety net that has placed much of Europe in an economic bind is now being tweaked by the EU and IMF, in the IMF. I don't foresee a wholesale cutting of the net. I see a lot of problems in some of the states in the U.S. where many politicians want to cut the net and put people in absolute poverty. We've got more problems with politicians here willing to do that than you have with politicians trying to tweak a system that was unsustainable in the first place in Europe. The problem's in our own backyard, not there. The net overall impact of these tweaks is going to be very, very limited, in my opinion. It's not going to be something that's going to destroy the economy. It's going to cause a lot of labor unrest. However, there is a political risk right now. You have labor unrest. You have civil unrest. And these people have the right to complain and protest. Without question, absolutely. That shows that it's a mature democracy, and it shows that you're dealing with a country that at least will not try to totally suppress this by killing people, and you don't want to be involved anywhere near the types of rule of law, if you will, in quotes, that would allow such a thing in any country as a foreign direct investor. This is being handled in a very, very civil manner, for lack of a better word. People are protesting. There are politicians doing something that's unpopular, but there's a necessity, and it is a necessity of we need the money from another party. So that's where that particular risk has developed, and now where it stands as far as a foreign direct investor is concerned. I would say that the overall problem is not reputational. The reputational risk of continued investment in Bosnia or the Bosnian Croat Republic is non-existent. Where the problem would come into play is if you don't invest, if you don't stay the course, or get involved a little bit more there. The people need jobs there, more so now than they did before, because it's high unemployment. It's probably going to go higher. Create opportunities there and reap the return on that investment. The labor model in the United States is much, much different. The political risk is in walking away from this country at this point, not being a stakeholder in bringing it up from a high unemployment rate to a functioning economy with a reasonable low unemployment rate. This has been Mel Thompson.